I was always supported. Like, I tell to my parents very young that I wanted to be an actor. They were like, go for it. I was managing the teacher trainings for her, so like taking care of finding accommodation, do the communication with hotel and the booking. Being a better yogi will make you a better dancer. Being a better dancer will make you a better climber, and all of these ultimately make you a better human.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am here with Ferdinand.
Hello,
How are
guys.
you?
Very good, thanks. And yourself?
Very good indeed. So Ferdinand is a yoga teacher and a body movement practitioner. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, what is your story in life?
Since very young, I was a very active, fiery kid. I needed to use my energy and to do some physical activity a lot. I was never diagnosed, but probably hyperactive at the time. And I started martial arts. I think that was the first when I was 6. And then gymnastic came when I was 8. I was very lucky that my mother used to bring me to her yoga class when I was 11. So I was practicing with her for a couple of years, from 11 to 13 maybe, with her teacher. And then became to be a teenager, and then yoga was not cool enough. I wanted to have something a bit more physical, a bit more also corresponding to that age, to show off a bit more. So I came to circus, fire juggling, acrobatic, all the flips and everything. And martial art at the same time as well. And that's more or less this period of my life that I knew I wanted, at the time at least, I wanted to be to work as an artist, as an actor and a circus performer. And so I started to study towards that and go to theater school and to circus school and to work in the field. And that's actually what kind of brought me back to yoga, because training circus, I destroyed many parts of my body. Unfortunately, in the circus world, they train you like with the level of a high-level athlete, but there is not really care for the aftercare, basically. They don't teach you. I think it changed a bit now, but at the time, 10 years, 15 years ago, they didn't teach you how to take care of your body while doing all of this. And that's how I actually came back to yoga practice first, on the more therapeutical aspects. That's what attracted me. And so after all those years of acting and circus and all of these, I came to Phangan first, like everyone, to meet some friends and party, and I discovered I hated that side of the island. But I was loving this place, so we used to come back with friends, like travel in Southeastern Asia, but come back to Phangan a little bit before every travel, as a transition from the Western world. And one year I just met my ex, which I was with for 5 years, and she was living here, so I started to make some move to try to be able to stay here longer, start to have more opportunities. And I met Tal, that you interview also, which offered me a job in a yoga school and ultimately made the yoga teacher I am today, basically. Like, I own her a lot.
So you had such a cool mom that she took you to the yoga when you were 11.
Yeah.
I mean, where did she learn it? I mean, what kind of mother did you have? Was she more like an artist herself? Because of course the circus.
Both of my parents, so not when I was born, that was not what they were doing with their life when I grew up, but my father used to be a musician professionally for years. And basically the day I was born, he had the opportunity to be either go on tour with a very famous French artist for 6 months, or raise his son that was like a couple of days old. And my mother was like, look, you do whatever you want, but if you go on tour in 6 months, I'm not sure I'm still gonna be here with the kid. And so he decided that he wanted to have a family, and he changed completely his life around, get back his diploma in like economics, and went back to the rat race, basically.
Okay, for the family.
For the family,
you,
that's
for
me.
So he gave up his.
He was
career.
still playing. He always had played music, but more like as a hobby on the side. Even though it was taking him a lot of time on the side, he stopped to do it professionally at that time. Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
My mother was always also like, she studied history of art, and she was studying in the Louvre, the museum school, to become museum curator basically, when she was younger. And same, she actually went, I think she stopped her study like a week before the exam or something like that. But she was also like selling antiques with my grandmother for years. So she always had this stuff for like a more materialistic aspect of art. Like she was passionate about history of object and real antiques mainly, and like all the culture that goes around basically. So I grew up in an artistic environment for sure. There was like dozens of musical instruments in my house when I was a kid, and there was always opportunity at least to try and to have fun with those kind of stuff. I was always supported. Like I tell to my parents very young that I wanted to be an actor. They were like, go for it.
Cool. And so they supported you from the beginning, and they encouraged you even like to go into the circus, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, was it easy to just join this group of what people might think alternative people?
I mean, that's how it always starts. Like you always see like the circus people, and even me as a teenager, that's the way it started, you know, like you see those people juggling in the street, basking, and you're like, wow, that's very cool. You're 15, $300 sounds like a lot of money, and you see the hat on the street, and you're like, I could do that, you know, and do it. And so it starts, but actually the circus world and the theater world, which I evolved even more after, are very institutionalized. It's like you start with this kind of like funny alternative stuff, and it's also very good. You got some very good values. Like there is some people which are actually very talented in that field, but as soon as you start to get a bit more professional, it's like every other study. You know, you go to school every day, and you have teachers, and if you're late, you get penalties, and you know, it's like every other career at some point.
And also, if I think of the circus particularly, there are so many different sort of roles within the circus. Yeah, you said, were you a juggler? You said, or like?
So I started with fire juggling. Because when I was 15, it was a very easy way to make money in the street, and I used to pay my holiday like this. I'll go to south of France where there is a lot of tourists, bask for a day with fire, and then we could live for a week with friends. So it was a very easy way to do it. But then when I started to go a little bit more seriously, like circus school, to enter circus school is actually extremely competitive, and you have to be physically super fit. You have to have a basic of acrobatics, so front flip, back flip, tumble, all of those need to be mastered. Handstand, you need to have some basics, juggling eventually also, and then one specialty that could be juggling even more, aerials or something new. Also some people, I remember when I passed the exam to enter, basically you see people with act, you're like, I never seen that. You know, like they have object you never seen people juggling with. At some point, my biggest passion in that was like object manipulation, which is basically, you have to be a bit autistic to like that, because it's basically choosing an object from the everyday life and start to do impossible things with it. So you could train yourself to juggle for months with a spoon. You
said that you had some challenges with your body, like pushing yourself too hard a little bit because of the practice there at the time.
Yeah.
So you needed some restorative yoga to realign your body and fix your body, is that right?
When I was practicing circus, that's also why I flipped from more theater than circus. I worked like mask theater for a longer time than circus actually after that, because I dislocated my shoulder maybe 40 times. I had broke multiple bones. My knees are the surgeon says that they had the knee of a professional football player at the end of his career. Basically, he never seen that in someone which is not a football player, apparently. And so that brought me to like a more softer practice, to have also a different way to be on stage. And that's where I also went to theater school and met with like another group of friends which were having like a theater company that I stayed with for years. We worked together. That was also the way I was extremely privileged, is that I not only I was doing a work that is not necessarily easily accessible for everyone and very fun, but I would do it with a group of 10 friends, mainly. Like my main works was to work with those people and create shows with those people. Sometimes I will go for like small gigs, which I not necessarily enjoy that much, like in every job, like being extra in TV shows, or stuff like this. But main work was to wake up every morning and be with 10 of my friends to create a show.
So it's all lifestyle around it.
That's actually what brought me kind of out of it and back to the yoga at some point, was the lifestyle. Because you're not sleeping, you're partying a lot, like in a sense of you finish your job, it's, let's say, the show finish, it's 11. You have to pack everything in the theater, the props, the costume, everything in the truck. Then you close the theater, it's, let's say, 12, and your work day is done, and you're super pumped up from stage. You're just out of stage, you're extremely excited still. It's almost impossible to go to bed. So you go out with the crew, and at some point, this is your life. You're waking up at 12 every day after being out to the crew, and you have the afternoon to like prepare yourself for the show. And that's actually when yoga started to kick in again in my life. Like I was practicing on and off already, like once in a while I will have a little session for myself or go to a class, but nothing regular. And because of this lifestyle, at some point I was like, okay, I start to need to take more care of myself, because my work is actually to create the condition that I can be the better version of myself for those 2 hours on stage at night. So I need to create a routine or oriented my day in a way that it's like, it's about that. It's about creating this most efficient version for those 2 hours. And yoga was a big part of it at the time, so I started to practice more, to meditate more regularly, also because it was bringing me, of course, an amount of calm and control over myself on stage. And that's also part of the time when I start to realize that actually on stage you work with kind of the same energy that you worked with in meditation or yoga. You just, the outlet is just a bit different, but the energies are kind of the same. I actually was talking with a friend about that, and he knows in Nepal there is this theater company where they work with Vipassana technique for their comedian. And they have like extract some principle from Vipassana that they adapt on an acting training for stage.
Amazing.
And I'm very curious about this. I wanna go there one day.
For sure. I mean, I suppose you have to be very present and open to channeling. You have to really embody the character when you're on stage.
And be able to feel your partner energetically also. Right. Like even if he's in the back that you're not seeing it, you know he's on stage, you know what he's supposed to do. And so the more you can connect and feel those kind of currents, the better it is.
Yeah, so you're in an altered state of consciousness basically when you're performing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna sound very pretentious right now, but to me, when you're on stage, you're God. It's just like, and that's why also there is this egoistic things that can be very dangerous for actors, is that you're creating a world. You have an audience in front of you of people that are listening to what you say, and the convention is whatever you say, it's gonna be the truth. So you're actually God. You can create a world and destroy it in front of their eyes, and they're gonna play their part, So that was very, very powerful at the time. And thanks to yoga, I wouldn't go that way. It keeps you down a little bit and humble and calm you a little bit in that sense.
Yeah, because also yoga can be used, the meditation, to lightening the ego in a way, of course, when you are transcending through Vipassana or other techniques. So you're leaving your persona and you are in a higher state of consciousness, and then you come back into the body refreshed, reset, more detached. I can see, the amazing benefits that could have
course.
also for someone that is artistic or has an artistic type of job. Indeed. Okay, so we get to the point now where you are in Koh Phangan because of your ex-girlfriend, yes?
Yes.
So she was here, you wanted to stay with her?
Yes, so basically I was also arriving at the end of a chapter with my acting career. We were working with this group, I told you, with these people for 10 years, and all of us were like, we loved each other, we loved to work together, but it was time for us to experience something different, like it was the end of a story. So the timing was perfect. And I arrived here, I was supposed to stay 1 or 2 weeks and then to travel in Cambodia. And I went to Vipassana and I met this girl in Vipassana. We talked, the first day of Vipassana, we talked for half an hour, and then we didn't knew at the time, but both of us were thinking about the other while during the retreat and trying to stay focused on meditation, but still.
How sweet. No?
Very sweet, very
cute. From the
cute.
heart, of course, thinking from the heart.
Yeah, of course, very cute. So Vipassana finished, we spent time together. I decided to not travel and to stay those 4 months I have here. And at the same time, I'm start to volunteer at the Tal School, Gaia, that you interviewed last time. And I was already considering to do a teacher training, maybe start to consider a career into yoga teaching, or at least get more back in connection with that practice. And so I was with this girl, we were having an amazing time. I was volunteering with this yoga school where everybody was extremely friendly. I was going to class like 3 times a day, practicing all the class from the schedule. And at some point it was time to leave. And I was like, okay, now I have to make a choice. Do I want to come back? What is happening with this girl? Tal and Ajay, which was also partner in the school at the time, were like, they didn't say it at that time, they didn't verbalize it completely, but I could kind of understood that there was eventually a job for me if I wanted to. But I also told them already that I needed to leave, and at that time I had like one huge project that I wanted to finish in the theater, that it was a really good opportunity for me. So I went home, and for 5-6 months I was still in between, but I could make enough money to travel again on those 5-6 months.
Okay.
And Tal called me and she was like, I need a manager for the school, do you want the job? And I'm like, I love it, but I cannot be there before December. And she's like, I need someone in September, I cannot wait. So I told her, I'm like, look, I'm sorry, but this theater project, we were playing in one of the biggest French theater festival. I was like, I really want to do that as an actor, it's important for my career and it's a dream. And 2 weeks later, she called me back and she was like, you know what, I want to work with you, so I'm going to wait.
Oh, that's lucky.
This is very lucky. So then I came back in Phangan. I was managing the teacher trainings for her, so like taking care of finding accommodation, do the communication with hotel and the booking, taking care of the storaging of the props for all the teacher training, booking the space, helping the student where they're there.
Not teaching much, yeah?
No, zero teaching at first. At first, zero teaching because I was practicing yoga, but I didn't have any
enough
qualification. I mean, maybe I could have, but I wasn't feeling confident at all. And it was just the moment I start to consider myself eventually in the future to teach.
Okay.
So I was managing. And the first couple of months, she was like, look, I cannot pay you because she told you like the physical school had to close for legal reason. And then she was converting the old structure into a teacher training school. Yeah. And she was like, we're just changing structure. I don't have cash flow right now. I cannot really pay you, but I will give you the first teacher training for free.
Oh, okay.
So I did the training and she was like, and the first teacher training, I want you to work the minimum amount of time that you can actually be in training for real. Yeah. So she trained me, I did this training, I love it. She's an amazing teacher and she knows how to pick teacher also to teach with her, like very, very good people. And after that, I was helping her with the school. So I did this teacher training maybe 8-10 times actually, like I was going Not all the class, of course, but I was doing it again and again and again. And eventually I was starting to assist a little bit and do adjustment in some classes or helps.
Yeah.
Regarding at the time, actually, I should have probably started to teach earlier and just not think about it. But for me, it happened like that, so it works at the end. It was great. So yeah, 1 year before COVID, I was starting to teach. And then I was still working for Tal, and that's the moment where it actually stopped. Like I went back to France to bury my grandfather after a training. And I was supposed to have a minor surgery on my knee and 1 month, 2 months and come back and be there for the next teacher training. Turned out I went to France to catch an infection that you usually get in Thailand, and I almost died from it.
Oh.
I turned septic and I spent like weeks in hospital. I couldn't be back for the training.
Because of the surgery? Or?
Because of the surgery, yeah. I'd catch it in the French hospital. Happens. So then I was away for what was supposed to be a 2 months holiday. It turned up to 8 months stuck at home, not being able to walk and all. So of course they couldn't wait for me. They had to continue. And then COVID, and then a storm of shit for me. Like I came back here finally, I didn't have a job anymore. We broke up with my girlfriend. I'm in the street with no house. I find 2 other jobs. COVID, I don't have any other job. I catch dengue. I broke a ribs. Like it was really a deep, dark karmic cycle. And after that, 1 year like this, and after that everything went really good, and I started to have more and more students. That's also when I started to do personal trainings a bit more, because I had people asking not only for yoga, but more like purely physical stuff. And that's where I'm at right now, basically.
Cool. Okay, so let's delve into the kind of body movement teaching that you do now. So, of course, you have lots of experience in different sort of environments that are very useful and interesting. And now you are able to combine different tools to really help people depending on their specific challenges, is that right?
Exactly.
So what's your view of yoga, your view of personal training, and how you combine them?
I would start even with like a more wilder view, is that, and that's something I'm using from, it could not come from me, it's like a view from, maybe you're familiar with Ido Portal, is like one of the movement guru recently. It kind of like creates the world of movement. And it's a very simple thing, is that in this day and age, modern society, we're glorifying specialists. You can get very, very, very good at one thing, and that's gonna be the rest of your life and personality and everything. Yeah. But if I take, for example, whichever amazing football player, which is playing worldwide, like super professionally, Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. Nobody cares to know how Cristiano Ronaldo is climbing, you know? But actually, for Cristiano Ronaldo, it might be more important than how he plays football. We're having this glorification of specialists, of like being very, very, very good at one thing, but that's actually occulting all the rest, and life is never about only one direction.
Yeah, it's also in science, you know, we have something called reductionism, you know. Holism and reductionism are at the opposite ends. And if you see like scientific specializations as well as medical specializations, they tend to be indeed very reductionist. So you have a problem with your knee, they take care of the knee, you know.
But they will never look at the hips where the problem might come from.
Yes, because the general practitioner, which is the generalist doctor, is more of a gatekeeper, you know. It just refers you on to people or gives you a patch.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So this system now is applied not just in medical science or science in general, it tends to be applied in other disciplines as well.
Exactly. Is this just the thing that it's simple conception, which is very obvious? It's just like being a better yogi will make you a better dancer. Being a better dancer will make you a better climber, and all of this ultimately make you a better human. You know, it's just about like, to me, I'm passionate about body abilities and everything you can do physically, internally. So at some point I was like, why should I limit myself with one discipline? And that's also what I'm so grateful that I find yoga, because a little bit like some definition they give in martial art of Kung Fu is like, everything can be yoga. if I'm dancing, I can make it yoga.
Sure.
If I'm aware enough, and if I start to decide to be present and to make it a form of movement meditation, every time you use your body, it can be related to a form of practice.
Sure.
And yoga broadened my horizon because of that so much that it really, really changed the way I actually conceive all those practices together. And
so now you have more of a holistic or like a higher sort of a view of movement. And
yoga is part of it.
Yoga is part of it, and then you work, is it one-to-one mostly?
Mostly one-to-one, especially for personal training. I do some yoga trainings, also Yoga Alliance certified and stuff like that. But my love is really, really going to one-to-one. Okay. Like this is because especially here, it's hard sometimes, like there is such a turnover of people coming, and everybody has a different idea of what yoga should be and what they want of it. And so sometimes I found myself teaching classes and I'm like, nobody is understanding what I'm saying. You know, and that's fine. Like, I mean, there is a yoga for a teacher for every student and there is a student for every teacher. But at some point I wanted to be able to have students which are interested to what I got to offer and don't come just for like a little yoga high and they're gonna have a little feel-good moment that they're gonna have after the class, which I got nothing against. It's very nice. It should be, if it's your jam, go for it. But I'd like to work with people a little bit more in depth.
Okay. And you work with them with their bodies, right? So when you think of yoga, of course, some people think of the asana practice, which is the physical. You mentioned Vipassana, which is not the yoga system, it's meditation, which is also the Hindu yoga system. And you mentioned maybe karma yoga, or everything is yoga to a certain extent, as in not physical practice, but presence, flow, connection with something which is higher, more ethereal. And you're saying, I can work with yoga, but I help people with personal training, and I help people with their body as well, right?
Yeah.
Almost like a physiotherapist, or not as far as that?
I wouldn't say as far. I wouldn't qualify myself a therapist. I wouldn't go as far as that, even though I'm intimately convinced that 75% of minor mental health problem, could be fixed with a proper diet and a proper movement regime. That's a personal opinion. I'm sure there is people who disagree, and good for them. And I'm not talking about like actual very deep and heavy pathology, but mild depression, body dysmorphia to a small level, all those kind of stuff. To me, it really, really change your life if you start to have just even a little low level of physical activity and awareness of what you put in your body.
Yeah, for sure.
And when I say like not only food, but like also mind food, like what you watch, what you read, who you surround yourself with. Sure. It's like definitely it's a more lifestyle approach, which is more connected to the yoga practice.
So like the lifestyle component of disease is huge, and more is being proven. It's not as if we needed that to be proven, but it is becoming proven as well.
Yeah, it's a funny paradox, man, is that all those form of knowledge which were mostly in Eastern societies for thousands of years. Like if you look at Chinese culture, at India, they will tell you 1,000 years ago that if you have a physical problem, it's rooted deeper into your emotion or in your brain. It took us thousands of years of science to actually cut every pieces to the atom and to the particle to actually confirm what those guys already knew to be true.
Yeah. And now it's very difficult to bridge it, but you have people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, for instance, who is both a bit of a yogi or meditator and a scientist at the same time. So they're making the link. So, but you are making the link between, as I said, body movements, yoga, personal training. So if somebody comes to you and say, listen, I have some challenges in my lower back, or I just want to, pump up a little bit more. Can you do both, or you prefer the first one?
It's funny you say that, because I had someone this morning, I had this profile exactly this morning as a client. So yes, you can do both, of course. Why not? There is no limitation. I mean, your lower back is a very important part of your body. If you can alleviate the pain, your quality of life going to increase. And why not be finding yourself sexy when you're naked, you know? It's also like there is nothing wrong about that.
It's good actually, no?
Yeah, it's very good.
So the two things can be combined. And do you work in gyms or do you work at home?
I do both. I work in gyms, I work at home. It also depends on how the client feel about the gym. Some people rather be at home and by themselves. Some people like the more stimulation. Usually if we do yoga, I don't go to the gym. If I practice yoga, we go either in nature or my place or their place, a little bit more intimate. And I mean, except if it's also depends on the profile of the client, because also most of the time people want what they don't really need, especially into yoga. Like for example, when I started to practice yoga again, I start super strong physical practice, Ashtanga, Mysore style, 2 years, every day, you know. And that was actually wrong in sort of ways. I mean, it was great at the time, it made my body strong, it connected me back to yoga again, and I needed that. So I'm not regretting anything. But if I look through the lens of yoga at myself, I'm someone which is already quite fiery and active, and yoga should be used to bring balance to yourself. So actually, I should go towards the more restorative and softer practice, yin or traditional hatha, and holding the asanas for longer and more, and which is usually naturally the natural evolution of a practitioner. Like nowadays, I'm doing very few asana, I'm sitting in meditation, I'm doing pranayam, and I'm chanting a little bit, but I get all my physical action from outside my yoga practice.
I understand. Very good. So now let's move back into Koh Phangan.
Yes.
So what are your plans? Why do you still love the island? Because of course, you know, still here.
Yeah, I'm still here after 6 years. Seeing the island changed a lot, but I still love it. I mean, to me, it's also always about the people. I got my people are here. I got many friends which live here as well, and they are very close to my heart. So I'm very happy to have the chance to live with them. And even though the island had changed and it's a bit more expensive now, and now it's high season, so it's a bit crazy for those couple of months, I still have a quality of life that I could not experience anywhere in Europe, at least. I'm sure you know, but it's a very free place.
Sure.
Like we're having this game with a friend. Is like every time we do something in Koh Phangan that would be impossible in the rest of the world, we make a note, you know, and the list is very, very, very long.
Yes, we are very blessed with this very tolerant culture. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a big part of it. Then also beauty and climate. I mean, especially when you're practicing yoga, to me, it's really, really easier to sustain my yoga practice when I wake up in the middle of beautiful nature.
Sure.
And like just beauty in general around. And I noticed that when I'm back in Europe visiting family or traveling, even though this is probably the moment you need it the most, this is the moment where your practice is the more challenging to keep.
Okay.
And also business-wise, it's a big yoga hub. There is a lot of people who come to study. There is a lot of teacher also. Like I'm still very nourished by the environment here. I can go to classes, see teacher that I have huge respect for and learn from them, which is a luck. Like it's not everywhere in the world will be like, this week I'm gonna learn qigong with a Shaolin master, and the week after there is this very good yogi who come worldwide known, and I'm gonna go with him, and the week after I'm gonna go vipassana. And like you can also kind of like make an indigestion of it, but if you want, all of those practices are there to be learned. So it's a very, very stimulating environment for me as well.
It's creative, stimulating, many classes, many modalities. It's very good fun, indeed.
It is.
Well, Ferdinand, I think your life has been very interesting. So I was very glad actually to listen to your life story. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
If you are in Koh Phangan, you want to hang out with Ferdinand, he's going to be here. Is that right?
I'll be there. I'm leading, if you want to do yin yoga, we're having a yin yoga training in 2 weeks in February and 3 times a year around. And if you have injuries you need to take care of, knee, back, anything, don't hesitate to reach. I'll be happy to help if I can.
Sounds very good. Thank you very much, Koh
Thank
Phangan.
you, Kapun Makhap. Thank you for having me.